Okay, so I'm going to try and get through this in 20 minutes. There's a lot I want to cover. I'm going to share a little bit about who MassMutual is, just so you guys all know, give a little bit of context about who I am and my role there, and I'm going to share our story and the lessons that we've learned. Now, what I want to caveat is our lessons might not be the right lessons. They might not apply to you, but they're what we've learned. And there's going to be three things that I want to talk about. The first is how do you align leaders? The second is how do you change behaviors? And the third is how do you approach Gemba walks? And I caveat again, these aren't universal, but these are the things that we've learned. So a little bit of background about MassMutual. Who here has a family? Any folks? Okay, pretty much everyone has a family. Who here owns insurance, life insurance?
Are you selling us?
I have to put in a plug. I got to put in a little bit of plug. Life insurance. So MassMutual is the largest whole life insurer in the U.S. We have a variety of products, including life insurance, annuities, disability insurance, but primarily we are a life insurance company. We're based out of Springfield, Massachusetts, and we've been around for about 165 years. We are very proud of being sort of number one. About 4 or 5 years ago when we actually 6 years ago when we started this journey, we were number 4 in the industry. So we've seen a jump to number 1 in 2016. We also pay the highest dividends in the industry, and we have the highest financial strength. So a lot to be proud of about MassMutual, and I'll talk a little bit more about the company in just a moment. And then a little bit of background about myself. So as Paul mentioned, I was with McKinsey prior to coming to MassMutual. My current role at MassMutual is I lead the Lean program, and within that Lean program, 2 things I'm also focused on is culture and leadership development. So those are 2 very important things, and I think they go hand in hand when you think about any lean organization. Now, prior to, I mentioned I was at McKinsey, and I also was on a submarine. I was a naval officer aboard a fast attack submarine for 6 years, and I taught leadership and management with Fordham University. So that's my background. Now, the role that I play in addition to leading the Lean program is really focused on leadership. So I spend a majority of my time with the CEO, with the executive leadership team, talking about what does it mean to lead in a lean environment. And it's very important because as we've deployed this program, we had a lot of struggles along the way. And I wouldn't say that we're perfect, but we're continuing to learn. Now, why did we decide to do this lean program? As I mentioned a moment ago, we're sitting pretty fat and happy. Right, we're number 1 in the industry. We have the highest dividends. We have the highest financial strength. We're a mutual company. We've been around for 165 years. So why change? And I had the same question 4.5 years ago before I joined MassMutual. And my impression was, I had a unique position when I was with McKinsey, is I was able to see a lot of the lean programs that are being deployed out there. And I had a chance to kind of call BS on some of them too, to say, I don't think we're really doing it here. And my opinion of MassMutual at the time was, I'm not really sure we're really doing this. So when I came to MassMutual, I was reluctant, but nonetheless, I decided to come and talk to the leadership team. And I asked them, why did you decide to do this program? And this was really, really important. And this is sort of the first takeaway. I sat down with the CEO, I sat down with each of the executive leaders, and I asked them, why do you want to do this program? And they each shared with me this experience that they had. You see, back in May of 2011, we decided to take a bunch of our leaders to go and see another company. Now, we had tried to do lean many years prior to 2011, and it had always had its sort of fits and starts. There was never really anything behind it. But in 2011, May of 2011, we took our CEO to a company called Achmea, based out of the Netherlands. Any of you familiar with Achmea? Okay, so Achmea is if you have a chance, I would definitely recommend going and seeing this company because when our CEO came back, he said, we're going to do this program. And that was really, really important to me because we now had the same target condition in mind. And when it came back later throughout the program and we started talking about what we're trying to do, we could always go back to that target condition and say, not only do you remember what did you see, but remember what you felt. We had that same point of reference, and we could always talk about, all right, I want to get better, but this is really the goal, is creating an environment where not only do you see all these tools up, but you remember the feeling that you had, that sparkle in people's eyes that you saw. That is that point of reference. And it was important because without that, I'm just pushing something else, that I've just got another great idea. But since we all had that same common frame of reference, we had that same target condition. So that's sort of leadership takeaway number 1. So we decided to do this because we saw something different. We saw this level of engagement. And for all of you that are struggling to get leaders on board, I would say take them out of the environment. Take them to go and see and get them inspired, because that's what we did. So that was our why. Another question is why now? So we're in an interesting time right now. We have a changing economy. We've got a changing political environment. We've got a changing expectation of our consumers. Power is no longer within our suppliers. Power is within the consumers. Employees are demanding more. I can't just go to a company and expect to do certain things. People want to be inspired. They want to be led. So we've got all these things that are changing around us. The only thing that's really constant is change. And so our ability to adapt to that change is the one thing that will set us apart. Now, we've been doing Lean for about 6 years now, and really proud of some of the improvements that we had. You know, we recently took a process that took 70 days, and we got it down to 40 days, and we said, hey, that's really great, that's really cool. And what I want to show you is another company out there. So 3 seconds. You know what that is? Lemonade. So Lemonade is a new company into the industry. They can process a claim from the time it comes in to payment, all the way through risk, all the way through fraud, and pay your claim within 3 seconds. Something that takes us weeks to do. And so we need to change. And if we don't change, our consumers are going to change. Our competitors are going to change. So that's why we did this program. We needed to be agile. Our competition is no longer the people within our industry. Our competition is our customers and our employees. So we started on this program called the MassMutual Way. And we had this goal in mind. We've got a very compelling vision and purpose. We want to be the best company in the industry. And we have a noble purpose, which is to help people secure their futures and protect the ones they love. Sounds really great. The problem is every other company in the industry has that same purpose and vision, right? I'm sure some of the other insurers out there, you've got that same goal. And so we introduced this set of tools as well. So we introduced this thing called the MassMutual Way, a bunch of tools, things like problem solving and standard work, change stories, skills matrix. You guys are all familiar with these things. So we put these in place and we said, hey, great, this is what we want to achieve. But something wasn't working. We deployed this system all the way across 7,000 employees. Something wasn't working. Something was missing. Anyone here guess what it was? Why is this not working?
There's no one in there.
It's this middle piece, right? Yeah, it's this middle piece.
Coaching, mentoring, support.
So in order to change the way that we work, you need to change behaviors, right? In order to change behaviors, you need to change beliefs, right? And so we put this program in place, but we didn't actually change the beliefs. We've had leaders throughout our organization rise up through the ranks and do what they thought was successful. And they continue to do these things. And so their beliefs hadn't actually changed. I've now got these tools in place. Oh, great, I've got standard work. I'm going to make sure everyone is doing standard work, and if you don't do standard work, hey, you're fired. Doesn't feel really inspiring. So we started to talk about the beliefs, and I started spending a lot of time with the different leadership teams. I first started with our CFO, and I started talking about leadership, and I started talking about people. I started talking about how does your brain work when you're outside your comfort zone? How does it start to process information? I started talking about what does it really take to engage and inspire people. And I shared a story with him that I'm going to share with all of you now. So prior to McKinsey, I spent time in the Navy, and I was on a fast attack submarine. And I joined, the week I got my orders to come to this fast attack submarine, the week after 9/11 happened. So really great time to be in the military, right? Because you've got a really compelling purpose, trying to achieve freedom for the world. And nonetheless, you know, I checked in on board, really happy and excited, and didn't know what I was getting myself into. My captain sat me down that first day and said, hey, by the time you and I leave this submarine, we're going to win the Battle Efficiency Award. This is the award given to the best submarine in the fleet. And I said, awesome, I'm behind that. And little did I know how far apart we were. We were actually the worst submarine in the fleet at that time. Right, see, a month before I checked on board, we had an incident, and we nearly discharged radioactive fluid out into the ocean. That's the type of thing that gets a whole crew fired. And so we weren't doing that great. But nonetheless, hey, I was still excited. Hey, we're going to win this award. And I was on board the Submarine for the next 2.5 years, and we did win the award. We won the award 2 years later, and I always thought back, what was the difference? Because it felt different. I can tell you it felt absolutely different. That first year I was on board, we were doing things, we were doing drills, we were sleeping 2 hours a night, we were working all the time, and nothing much ever came out of it. That second year, we were doing the same things, but we felt excited, we felt engaged, we felt empowered. Something changed, and I thought back, hey, you put all these people through these programs, there's a lot of education that goes into running a nuclear reactor. And so everyone's going through nuclear power school, going through all this training, eventually to become a submarine officer. And everyone on board is trained quite highly as well. So what is the key difference? What was the difference between the submarine that nearly was on the verge of catastrophe to one that is the best performing submarine in the fleet? And at the same time my submarine was out there, I saw a couple other submarines that had similar problems. So there was a boat that hit a Japanese fishing vessel many years ago. And you guys remember that story? Yeah, that's the same time my submarine was out there. Another submarine that hit an underwater seamountain, and it had a bunch of casualties as well. So what was the difference between a submarine that's so high performing and nonetheless my submarine, right? Because the first day I checked in on board, we were afraid. We were afraid of doing everything. And that second year, we were empowered, we were engaged. And give you a little bit more background around the submarine. My captain was probably one of the smartest guys I knew, but everyone was afraid of him. If you didn't know your stuff, you'd walk back out of a meeting with him with your head between your legs. So everyone is afraid of him. And I want to give you this setup because this is the moment where I think it all changed. And I'm not 100% positive. Like I said, I have a disclaimer for everything that I say here. But this is the way that I saw it. So 1 year on board, I got my dolphins. I'm finally able to lead the submarine. And I'm taking my watch. I'm now standing officer of the deck. I'm taking the submarine up to periscope depth. So I'm bringing it up from the bottom of the ocean up to a point when just the periscope can stick out and start to see contacts around us. And contrary to popular belief, there's no windows on submarines, so you can't see anything. And so you're doing this very dangerous evolution, but it's pretty routine. We do it, every so many hours to make sure that we're seeing everything that's around us. So I'm bringing up the ship to periscope depth, and I'm standing in control. And we've got a few extra people on watch because I'm pretty new. I've just got my qualifications, and sonar calls out to me and says, "Hey, we've got a new contact. It's 20,000 yards away. It's in the baffles." And my chief, the sonar chief, who really, it's not actual watch. He was just standing there because he's just keeping a close eye on me. He's like, "Hey, it's not a problem. Don't worry about it. Yeah, just continue to go up. Go to periscope depth." And I paused. And I thought back to some training I had a year and a half ago. I said, that seems a little bit fishy. I don't think it's right. I'm going to call emergency deep. He looks at me. He says, "What are you talking about?" "Sir, this is fine. Everything is great." Everyone else in control turns around and looks at me. And so imagine yourself, put yourselves in this situation for a moment. Imagine you're a 20-something-year-old, freshly out of grad school. You've just went through training. You've got people that are twice your age that have been experienced doing this for 20 years. Telling you, hey, this is the wrong thing to do. What would you have done?
Caved.
You would have caved, right? Most of us would probably cave. For some reason, I don't know what it was. Maybe I ate a power breakfast or something. I said, you know what? We're going to do this. We're going to go emergency deep. Now, we had never done emergency deep the entire time that I'd been on board. In fact, probably the 10 years prior to me being on board, we'd probably never done this maneuver. So I call emergency deep, and I say, we're doing it now. And so the submarine goes vertical. And anyone that was asleep is now awake. So people are falling out of their racks. Within a minute, every other officer's in the control room, and they're saying, what happened? What did this brand new lieutenant do? Why did he make this call? The executive officer comes in, and he gets me relieved my watch and brings me down to go see the captain. Captain's stateroom is just in front of control, and so everyone's just peering around the corner to see what's going to happen to this young lieutenant who, like his predecessor, is probably going to get his ass chewed. So I walk over to the captain's stateroom, and I've got probably, for some strange reason, I got a smug grin on my face because I'm like, you know what? I think I did the right thing. So I walk in, and guess what do you think he says? He said, "You did the right thing. You made the right call." So everyone saw that. Everyone saw that he supported me at that point. Now, something really interesting happened the next day. Guess what happened? Someone else called an emergency deep. A week later, someone else called an emergency deep. So this thing that we'd never done before, because it wasn't necessary, but probably was the right thing to do, we are now doing this. That fear was suddenly removed. We started doing things very differently. We did these drills all the time in the weeks, in the years prior to this, in preparation to win this award. Nothing ever came out of those other than we felt really bad about everything that we didn't know, right? But now we were attacking our standards very differently. We actually looked at our drills and we said, you know what? If we don't change these manuals on these core things, other submarines are going to have problems. And so we wrote to Naval Reactors and said, change these manuals. Make these changes. When it came time to going for the award that second year, we felt we were going to win. We knew we were going to win. That was a completely different feeling. And the reason I want to share this story is because there's such a very delicate change between a great organization and the one that is muddled in fear and inability to actually make decisions happen. And so that's the story I shared with my leaders, and we started talking a lot about what does it really take to get the best out of your people, because isn't that what leadership is all about? It's getting people to be better. Otherwise, we're just managing. And so we started to redefine what the MassMutual way really mean. It's about this one belief. It's this belief that we will get better results if we align, if we engage, if we empower our people. Otherwise, we're just putting in place a management system, right? So when I think about standard work, I can give you standard work as a mechanism to control you, to create consistency, right? Everyone talks about a consistent customer experience. I want to engage my people first. And I don't feel like I get a lot of autonomy when I'm just giving you standard work. But what if my goal was to give you autonomy, was to empower you? I'm now giving you standard work for a very different reason. I'm saying, hey, I want you to find a better way of doing this, because your job is not to do this work. Your job is to do something better with it. I want you to be here not for the work that you do. I want you here for your mind, for what you can contribute. What does real value for people means? It's not that I value just for the tasks that you accomplish, but for your thinking, for making things better. So this belief system was really, really important because it started to change everything that we did. It started to change the way we use our metrics. Are we using metrics to control you? Are we using metrics to inspire you? Are we doing coaching to make sure that you're conforming to a certain way of doing work? Are we using coaching to find ways to expand and grow you? So this is our belief system, and we boil down MassMutual way to really this one sort of a belief. And where does this belief come from? Well, we all need to feel autonomy. We all need to feel mastery. We need to feel like we're getting better at something. We need to feel like we're developing competence. We need to be aligned to a greater purpose. These are the things that make us inspired. These are the things that make us at our best. And if we don't create this environment, well, then don't do lean. You're just deploying a whole set of tools. And you're going to be like the rest of the 70% of companies that try lean and fail. So lesson number 2 was, what does it take to really change behaviors? You needed to change the beliefs. We need to start to talk about what does it mean to be a leader, and how do we start to create that environment? Because everyone can get behind leadership. Not everyone's going to be able to get behind standard work. Make sense? All right, so where are we in our deployment now? We're nearly complete in our initial phase of deployment. So we've rolled out this system as of today. We're about 90% complete. We'll be completely finished later this year. Also, if I think about our lean maturity, we deployed initially a set of tools, as I mentioned. We've shifted over to solving value stream type improvements, and eventually we want to be more of a culturally driven improvement happening all the time. So this is sort of where we are in our phase. Now, underneath all of this, consistent with all this, is the leadership development. So what we found, what we put in shortly after we started deploying was we really need to build leadership capabilities. And so a lot of time that I spent is around developing leaders to be better, developing leaders to help others become better, and doing Gemba walks. And so one of the other things I mentioned I do bi-weekly Gemba walks with the CEO. And I'm out of time now, but I'd be happy to share with you all about lesson number 3, which is how we approach Gambit Walks. But thank you very much.